without a worry in the world. 8 years old, wild blue eyes and yellow curls, cuter than the button and always inquisitive. Innocence in the flesh, but innocence ignorant to the whole predicament that began that night summer, followed by numerous other summers. Once a father's brother touched her every time that he would come to babysit. Summer silent serenades with sexual relationships, and she never said a word. Always kept it secret because she trusted when he told her this would help her grow older. And over years, all of the salt inside her tears would smear and mix within the sweat upon her uncle's shoulders. Is that real? Numb to the world, cause now she can't feel the pressure of this anvil, keeping her at a standstill. 16 pristine, so just imagine that by 18 she was faking multiple orgasms as a living, cause nothing's ever given. And then she learned quick when uncle was sent to prison, leaving her stuck inside her own distortion of her lifestyle, covered in her anguish behind an inviting nice smile.
Life is like a boomerang. Fill your void with her new pain. From emptiness, sorrow flows. We're all together now. Locks of a feather now. Deceive lights, a ricochet. Aim for the gut, infect the brain. What are you looking at?
What am look, you're like the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life.
What do you want?
How much would it be to spend some time with you, huh?
I don't think you could afford it.
What do you mean?
Never mind.
You know you can try me. Johnny was an ex-drifter, now turned out a father, starving musician on the side. And the first time he saw her, he thought she was beautiful. So we watch her every day, catty corner from his cubicle, wondering. Summertime heat waves sweltering, and she was sheltered in strangers' arms. Wouldn't ever take it wrong to pray to save from home. And every night the lonely shadows would hear him play his song, written with the melody of the thoughts of her walking, and the harmony embedded in all of her soft skin. And he waited, time to till the day that he approached her, swallowed his pride and came closer. Told her she was the prettiest thing he had ever seen in his intricate dreams. If ever there was a queen, spent the night with her and promised her everything, knowing in his heart that he would have a heart by any means.
Life is like a boomerang. Fill your void with her new pain. From emptiness, sorrow flows. We're all together now. Locks of a feather now. Receive the lights, a ricochet. Aim for the gut, infect the brain.
Hello everyone, this is Laurie Smith on Spreaker. I'm glad to be here, and that's a song called Boomerang by VITAL MC, Vital MC, and that's a song, you know, that's sort of fitting for what my topic here is tonight. And I want to talk about the effects of child sexual abuse, the damage done. As a survivor of child sexual abuse, I myself can speak firsthand about this. And my shows are really dealing with child abuse issues and are sometimes explicit. So I would say that, you know, you have to listen to at your own discretion, and you have to make sure that you're safe if you're a survivor to listen, because my shows can trigger. And I'm well on my healing journey, so but you have to make sure that you're in a good place, right? If you're going to listen to especially my shows dealing with child abuse issues, right? And I want to talk about the issue of child sexual abuse. This is something that it just sits at the very core of my being. All of child abuse does, and like I was saying on my last show, you know, mainly because I was abused as a child myself, but also because, you know, you see so many headlines and you know it's happening and you know it's going on, and yet the world just passes it by because nobody really knows how to stop this mess. It really is up to individuals, you know, with children, and it is up to these individuals to stop abusing children. And that song Boomerang really hits pretty hard, you know. I mean, it's sort of actually quite similar really to my story, except for mine was incest, and my brother, one of my older brothers actually, 13 years older than me when I was 8, abused me sexually. And uh, that is such a hard issue to deal with for so many survivors. So many survivors of CSA, child sexual abuse, will never get help. They will never tell anyone because of the shame, because of the pain. Even if it doesn't even seem to matter if it was a family member or not. They will keep that pain, and they will keep that shame, and they will keep that horror to themselves, really, many times, for life, right? And for me, I decided that since I decided to live at the age of 42 and not die, and decided to reach out and get some help, that I would speak out about this stuff. And really, it is upsetting to talk about this stuff. It's upsetting to think about it. It's upsetting to see these headlines out here with these little kids right now who are being abused in any way. And that's any abuse. I consider all child abuse deadly, and because in its own way it all is. And child sexual abuse is just another form of deadly child abuse. It's absolutely horrific. And if we don't talk about it, and it gets shoved under the rug and pushed under the carpet, and we just turn our TVs off when those reports come on about children being abused, and we just pretend it's not happening, well, that's kind of what the whole world wants to do. And I mean, that's what even many survivors will do, just pretend it never happened, right? It's like, it's just easier sometimes to deal with things that way, but we will never solve the problem, and we'll never solve the issue if we're not all doing something to stop it. And I have a voice, and I thought, hey, I've only got so many years left, and I mean, who knows how many that is? Only God knows. And I thought, well, why not? I'll speak out. I had a lot of friends I grew up with who were abused in many different ways, and some of my friends were actually abused sexually as well as myself. And I've had some of my friends tell me, in confidence, so I won't give their names, when we were growing up, that they were abused by someone in their family. And it was mind-boggling to me, and I was just like, oh my God, like, I felt bad for them, and in the meantime, I was thinking, yeah, I was abused too. And some people I would tell, and some people I wouldn't. And it was absolutely horrific. The issues surrounding, the aftermath of child sexual abuse are just absolutely horrific. I never did see a professional counselor or anything like that regarding any of my abuse. I actually was very much leery and distrusting of anyone with my information, because I can't afford to be hurt anymore. I just can't afford to have any more pain put on me of any type. And so I just can't allow it. So I just had to look for help elsewhere. So I looked for help in group support, looked for help in anonymous online support, as well as other survivors, and also self-help books and things like that. And really just working through the issues. And, I mean, piece by piece, looking at, the child, the physical abuse, the verbal abuse, what happened, how it made me feel. And the child sexual abuse is something that, it's sort of, it's a horrific thing, and mainly because, the physical damage done. I mean, when I was 8 years old, my brother was 13 years older than me, so he was 21. He was definitely psychologically ill. And he was over 6 feet tall. And I don't know how much he weighed, but he was a big man. He was a big guy. He was kind of skinny, but he was over 6 feet tall, sturdy 21-year-old man. I was an 8-year-old girl, and the physical damage done to my body because of the rape and the sexual assaults and the sodomy, really, it's just unbelievable that people would excuse this away and say, oh, can't you just get over it? No, I really can't, because I'm barren. I wanted to have 10 children, which wouldn't have been a good idea, but that was always in my mind, that I would love to have children and have a bunch of children and just have this wonderful family. It was just a dream of mine that never came to fruition. It was a dream, all right, but that's okay. It's good to dream. And, barren. I can't have children, and because of the sexual abuse that I suffered as a child, I went to a gynecologist when I was 21, and for my first checkup, and I actually had written down that I was a virgin on the sheet, and that I had never had sexual intercourse, and they were like, "You're saying you're a virgin?" And I was like, "Mm-hmm." And they were like, Well, we see something completely different, and we know you were sexually abused as a child. There's a lot of scar tissue there. You will probably not be able to have a child. You you may be able to carry one, but it'd be iffy, and could be dangerous for both you and the child. And um, you know, you could adopt, right? But they wrote it down as child sexual abuse, and they said, you can press charges, but my abuser brother was dead. He committed suicide the year before, and he was living many, many miles away from me. I hadn't even talked to him much for my whole life, really. And I was 8 years old when he sexually abused me, and then he moved to Canada, and I didn't see much of him after that. Saw him a couple of times for a very short period of time, which I was thankful for, because it was always scary to be in the same vicinity with him. I was always afraid of him after that. I loved my brother very much before that, and after that, I was very much afraid of him. So the physical damage, not only just the physical damage done, the emotional damage, the emotional scarring, the whole the psychological damage that done is absolutely insane. What that did to me. I was already growing up in an abusive home, and my parents were abusive towards each other. My dad was sexually abusing my mother, which means marital rape, by the way, just in case people don't realize that. And my dad had been marital rape, my mother for years, and he actually raped her in front of me one time when I was 6 years old. So I already had an idea that whatever was going on between them was hurtful and painful. And then at the age of 8, I was sexually abused, raped, and sodomized by my brother, and over a period of not quite a year, but through a period of about half a year, really, which was pain, and infection, and all kinds of grief for my body as well as my mind. And to me, being a woman, or being female, just wasn't a good thing, and I didn't want to be anything. And as I was growing up, of course, you growing up and you start having crushes on boys, and I did, and I really liked the male, opposite sex. Right? I still didn't have a problem with that, but I could never ever let anybody get in. I could never ever let anybody get close to me. So I never had any dates. I never went on any dates with any guys, not real dates. I had guy friends. I had quite a few guy friends, actually, and who were just like my girl friends. Like, we were buddies. We hung out. There was no pretense that there was going to be any kind of make-out session or anything like that. They knew we were just friends, and so I had a lot of guy friends, and so that was great. But the thing is I had a lot of crushes on a lot of guys, and wanted to go out and I'd get asked to go to like high school dances and stuff like this, and this is the rock and roll ages, so I mean, that would have been fun, but I just could not go on a date with a guy, because I could not let anyone touch me. I couldn't let a guy get near me, and for the longest time, I sort of dressed myself a little bit boyish, sort of almost like a tomboy, because I didn't want to draw attention to myself. My parent, like when the abuse was happening, I actually told my mother. My mother was my main abuser, was beating on me all the time, so I was afraid to tell her. My brother actually said if I did tell her, that he would sodomize me again. And he said, if you tell what we did here tonight, I will hurt you. I will sodomize you again. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't take it another time. I was like, no, I can't take that. I just didn't say anything for about the first 3 sexual assaults. And then after my the infection started to grow, I was bleeding, and it was horrible. I just had a lot of discomfort, a lot of itching, and a lot of pain. And so I went to my mom, and I told her, I said, brother's doing things. And I was 8 years old, and I didn't even know what to call it. I didn't even know what to say. I said, brother's doing things to me at night, to my private parts. And my mom, my abuser mother, who was being sexually abused by my dad, actually said, what do you want me to do about it? That's not my problem. That's your problem. And I didn't push it with her, because she was my main abuser. And my dad was crazy, so I didn't even talk to him. And I said, what do you want me to do? I mean, how am I gonna protect myself? I didn't say that, but I was like, what am I supposed to do? to stop brother from doing this to me, and she said, wrap yourself up in a blanket like a mummy. That was her answer. And so I did that, but it didn't stop the sexual assaults. And so, it's absolutely mind-boggling. People have no idea. People outside of our family, people who knew my parents, would be shocked and horrified. They loved my mom. My mom had a lot of friends. She had a lot of support. The kids didn't have any support, but my parents did. My abuser parents did. And people would be like, oh my God, there's no way. This sweet, beautiful woman, would never do that. Well, people do things like that. I will tell you right now they do. And it's absolutely horrific that a parent would let this happen to their child. Right? My mom did nothing about it. So my brother continued on and finally moved to Canada later that year. And I'm not sure why he left, to be honest. I don't know if he left because maybe my mom did tell him that he had to leave, or I don't know. I was 8 years old. Nobody talked to me. They just slapped me around and fed me and sent me off to school. So there was no conversations, right? And I have no idea. But all I know is he moved and I was happy, right? Because the sexual abuse stopped. But the thing is I couldn't even deal with it. Like, I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what to think about it. And all I knew is that it definitely had an effect on me. But I didn't know the amount of damage until later as I grew up, because I realized that I couldn't let anybody touch me. And I was already having a problem with that anyway, because my mom was abusing me physically as well as verbally, emotionally, and psychologically, but my dad as well. But, it just sort of became clear to me, that I had a couple of guys who were interested in me and wanted to go out on dates and stuff, and I'd be like, I'd turn them down and I'd be freaked out about it. I'd be like, oh my God, like they were asking me to just, jump into bed with them or something. It was like some sort of fear or some sort of panic, and I realized that I just didn't trust anybody. I already knew that, but I especially did not trust another guy. And I was like, oh, but and I had crushes on some of these guys, and I wanted to, especially by the time I hit, like 21, like 2021, I wanted so badly to have a dating relationship with somebody, boyfriend girlfriend type thing. I'd never had that, and I turned down a few guys, not a whole lot. Didn't have a whole lot of people after me. I wasn't all that great looking, and I was kind of a punk, and I was a drug user, so I didn't have all that many guys interested in me, but I had a few, and I had to turn them down. There's no way I could let anybody get close. And I finally met somebody at the age of 22 who I really thought, okay, I'm gonna let my guard down, and that's when I went to 21 and a half, went to that gynecologist and that I had mentioned about earlier. But it's just it affected my life. It affected my whole entire life as a woman, as a girl, as a teen. People have no idea the damage done unless you start reading up on it, or somebody, or you yourself know about it, right? And it was absolutely horrific. Just a fear of intimacy, a fear of allowing anybody in. Allowing anybody into my space, my comfort zone, my external comfort zone, or my internal comfort zone, like whatever, I would allow someone to know about me, to get to know me. I remember my first boyfriend there, the one that I went to the gynecologist checkup for, because I wanted to get on the pill, because I knew that I was very attracted to this man, and we were both, I was 21 going on 22, and he was older than me, and I really wanted this to happen, because I thought this was the one, and I thought, boy, this is the one, and he knew something was wrong. And because I couldn't let him touch me. I couldn't even let him touch me. I was like, nobody touches me, and I just sat there and cried and cried and cried. And he was like, oh my God, like someone's hurt you. And I was like, I couldn't even say it, like I couldn't say yes or no. I just sat there and I cried and cried and cried. And I remember coming back from the gynecologist after they told me that, they had seen the scar tissue and whatnot, and that I was sexually abused as a child, and I cried and cried and cried. That was probably about 2-3 months before this. And I just, you know, it's something that is just so incredibly damaging and so incredibly hard to get over. And does a person really ever get over it? You know, I mean, I still have body memories, I still have the flashbacks, I still have the memories. You know, I told my family members, especially my sister, and I told my abuser dad, because he was mad because I wrote my book, A Life of Death Redemption, and I told him, I said, I told everything. I told about the abuse. I told about the sexual abuse from Rob, you know, and I mean, so I put it out there. Did I get any sympathy? I mean, compassion? I'm not talking like I want people to kiss my butt. I didn't even get a word, not even a word. My sister just sat there. I told her privately in her car, because I was thinking that maybe she was abused sexually too by somebody in our home. We had a lot of brothers around, and I thought, man, what if he abused her too or something, and she's not saying anything? And I thought, you know, I'll just tell her just in case, you know, because all of us actually had problems with our own sexuality and sexuality period. Like, we were just non-sexual, probably because of the sexual violence between my parents. My parents were highly sexually abusive to each other. And I mean, this would include name calling. My mom would say the most disgusting things, like sitting around at the dinner table. Like, we never really sat around as a family, but if my dad was sitting there at the dinner table and she wanted to get back at him, she would say the most disgusting things to him about, you know, him wanting to do this and do that. They just, you know, sexual banter, like sexual harassment, really. And it was absolutely horrific, you know, to have to grow up like this. And my sister and I talked about that over the years. And we had problems with our own sexuality. Like my sister couldn't deal with the fact that her breasts were growing, and she actually used to bind them with binding, like so that they wouldn't look like they were growing. She had a real problem with her own sexuality. I know she did. She probably denied that, but you know, I know. I was there and I saw, and I know what she was going through. She didn't have any dates either. She was we were all screwed up, you know, from just this sick, really twisted environment. So that's why I told her, because I thought, man, I mean, maybe she was abused sexually too. Would never say anything to anybody, but this would give her an opportunity to know that, hey, I'm going public and I'm going to speak about this, and you know, this might give her an opportunity to get some help, or to even whether she wanted to talk to me about it or whatever. She didn't say anything, not a word. I mean, I got out of her car that winter night and I came up to my suite and I shut the door and I sat down at my computer and I cried and cried, because I thought, I am so on my own. And what I felt really bad about is that I've always been on my own. Always, within this huge family of, like, you know, 9 people that should have been there for me. Not one of them was there for me. Not one. And you know, how do you deal with that? It's not like it's not like you can ever resolve this. You know, it's nothing. I can't go back and change what happened, you know. So what I had to do was start looking at the issues really hard. And I mean, it takes a lot of work to do that. I actually got some really pretty decent self-help books for people who are working through stuff on their own. And I mean, self-help is not necessarily for everybody. Not everybody can do it, because it's actually very scary and it's dangerous. And you have to be sure, like they always even say in their books, you know, if you're going to do this work, you have to be sure you're in a safe place to do it. If you're a survivor, it is so incredibly intense. And you know, I wrote my book, One Child Abuse Survivor to Another, the journey, based on the child sexual abuse that I suffered, and also the blog talk radio shows that I was doing at the time, because I was talking about child sexual abuse at the time, and a little bit about my story. And so I sort of did a bit of a journal there and called it The Journey. But as I was working through that, I mean, it was incredibly hard. And I had support. I had some friends who would check in on me pretty much every day to make sure that I was okay. They're long distance, coming to Australia and stuff, so it wasn't like they were next door and could just pop in. But they would make sure that I was online and I was okay every day, or they'd be calling me on the phone. And they were like, how are you doing? Are you okay? Because they knew that I was working through this incredibly hard, difficult work that had to be done, because I needed to, in order for me to be able to move past it and be able to heal and find some sort of peace, some sort of something. I needed to be able to deal with it, and I needed to work through it. And it was a lot of work. It was hard. And I worked through all the physical abuse, verbal, emotional, psychological abuse first. And then I left the child sexual abuse for last, because I knew that that had to be done on its own. It was incredibly difficult. And so I just say, for anybody out there, if you're suffering, and you, like, for survivors, if you're having if you're having a hard time and you just can't seem to cope, and you haven't, reached out to anybody, and you haven't looked for help, make sure you do get some help. Reach out to somebody who's trustworthy. You have to find somebody who's trustworthy, and somebody who is trustworthy, because there are people out there that aren't so trustworthy, and we have to be careful when we're, especially survivors, to make sure that whatever group we reach out to, or whatever person that we reach out to, or whether it's counseling, therapy, mentoring, whatever it is, to make sure that it's a trustworthy source of people. And I would say, man, get some help. Like, I really wish, to be honest with you, I mean, people say, well, things happen when they do for a reason, in a person's life. But I wish that I would have got help a long time ago. And I really wish that I would have got help, like, in my 20s. But I don't know what that would have done at the time. But I kind of think it would have been so nice to be free of this whole path that I've had to take for the last 7 years or so, or 6 years, to already be past that by 15 years or so. It would, it's hard. It really is. I'm approaching 50. I've only got so much time left, and it's like I've only got so much time to speak out about this stuff as well, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I just want to say, to anybody out there who's suffering and just having a hard time, and who's been abused in any way, and you have no support, you make sure that you reach out. Because my main message is, like, do not ever give up, And, like, 2 of my brothers committed suicide. And do not ever give up. Never. It's not an option. Don't allow it to be an option, right? And so, yeah, we'll be back on again. I hope to be back around at some point and chat with y'all again sometime. And I'm going to play another song from Vital MC called Against the World right now. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and make sure you get some help. I'm telling you, you listen to me, and you deserve help. We deserve help. We deserve to be treated with dignity, with respect, with compassion, with care and love and concern. So do not ever think that you are not deserving of that, and don't ever give up on looking for that help and that hope, right? Take care.
It's amazing the ways you got me blazing these trails, the ways you taking me through when I was afraid of myself, to show me what I ain't seen and tell me what I ain't heard. You put your hooks inside of me, so honestly I can't work, cause I don't hide no more, and now I know that I can be the man that I planned. Who since you found who I am and fell in love with me, the part of my life that I was once missing, and now I see you clearly, fearfully, you wonderfully. No true or two time, it's like an empty hourglass, pissing against the grain, the twisted sigma systems, coward ass. Whatever they deem is normal, come from, we'll just go around hand in hand, and if I get too crazy, baby, hold me down, hold me close, hold me tight, and don't let go with me, because I love to feel the motion of your body's poetry and rhythmic excellence. Synchronize the breath, we spend the best of many nights sweating, blessed, set the precedence. Now
Doesn't matter what they want, doesn't matter what they need.
it doesn't matter what they say to me, because our eyes is open to what they afraid to see. Yeah.
Doesn't matter if we cry, don't matter if we
It doesn't matter if we fight or we fall, because it's you and me, baby, us against them all. And if we hold on through the night before dawn, it'll never be the same old song. Know that. And if we keep it cool we can't stand each other's guts. Arguments ringing loud until we fear our numbers up once the thunder struck. But when you get down to the root of it, moments like that can't compare to the true feelings and the end of being destined deep and down to fight for it. So I'll let go of anger if you let go of your pride of it. It ain't facetious if you believe this, baby. You and me, you prestigious and league with the universe's blessings calling out to give us all that we can hold on. Through the night before dawn, I'm willing to spill my blood and be a martyr for your honor. If they're down to go to war and fight for everything my heart can live for, yeah. So show me first and don't tell, cause the action speaks louder when it's more than yourself. And that to sacrifice two souls